Commissioner, who is our chief guest today, the various commanders, and you, our dear officers from the various services, together with your families. God is good. And all the time. We're very happy to host you again once more in this Cathedral Church of St. Theresa of the Child Jesus, Kibuye. Last year when you were here, you remember this mass was outside there because the cathedral was under renovation. By the grace of God, that renovation was completed, and now we can comfortably use the cathedral, and you're always most welcome. You are all aware of the reality of dual citizenship. That a person, a man or a woman, can belong to two countries. He can be a Kenyan, if the Kenyan constitution permits it, and then be a Ugandan, if the Ugandan constitution permits it. That is the reality of the world today. You can be a dual citizen, which is a very good thing because it helps us to point to what we are actually supposed to be. We are the children of the same one God, belonging to one family. But the choice of dual citizenship has consequences, which you must accept. If you accept to go for dual citizenships, there are certain offices you cannot hold in either country. Choices have consequences. If you want to hold certain offices in any country, you cannot afford to make the choice of dual citizenship. Our reading today, the Gospel says, you cannot be a servant of two masters. You will like one and hate the other one. Something very similar to that about the dual citizenship. There is something about being divided when you are a dual citizen. That's why countries can be very sensitive about certain offices. They cannot afford to admit the slightest lack of loyalty or divided loyalty for people who hold certain offices. That is why they cannot admit people to those offices who are dual citizens. And the gospel is saying something very similar, only at a higher level. You cannot serve two masters and do it well. You'll prefer one to the other one. But now, this is being elevated, the level of God. And the gospel, the Bible is saying, you cannot be a servant of God and have all your loyalty to God wholeheartedly if you choose to serve other things as well. The example given today in the reading is money, which means wealth, which means loyalty to the things of the world. And the first reading is a very good example of what happens when a person makes a choice for divided loyalty. The results are disastrous. The results are terrible. Israel, in the Old Testament, made the regrettable choice of having two masters. The God who had liberated them from Egypt brought them all the way through the desert into the promised land. And even before they went there, they were warned, take care. When you enter the promised land, don't begin worshiping the gods of the people who are removed to give space and room for you to settle. Remember the God who liberated you. The whole of last week and the other week, we have been reading the story of how other gods were introduced into Israel big time. And one of the contributors to that event that happening was a lady called Jezebel. She was married to a king of Israel, and she came with the gods of her country. And there was no small problem in Israel after that, because then we had divided loyalties. Loyalty to the God who had brought the people of Israel from Egypt all the way, and loyalty to the gods of the people who had come and infiltrated the people of Israel. The results were terrible. And some of the terrible results are what we had in the first reading of today. There was a priest called Joiada. And Joiada had done something very good, very encouraging for the current king, King Joash. When Joash was about 7 years old, his grandmother wanted to kill him. She wanted to kill him because her son of this lady, had been killed at war, had been killed. Because of that, she was very angry. She decided to wipe out anybody who was of royal blood. And the man who is king now, Joash, was among those who were supposed to be exterminated. But he was hidden by the sister. And with the help of the priest, Joiada, the one who's being the reading of today, they hid him from the anger of the grandmother who wanted to kill him. And then he was installed the king. And then he began to rule and to reign. And then the woman wanted to kill him. Of course, as normally happens, she was executed. But now he's king, he is in power, he is ruling. But something wrong has happened in Israel. Other gods have come in, and many people are not only worshipping the God who liberated them from Egypt, they are also worshipping these foreign gods. And the king, unfortunately, has fallen to that trap. He has fallen to that trap. And because of that, the son of the priest who saved him, the son is now called Zechariah, has become a prophet. And now he is telling the king, King Joash, who was rescued by his father, saying, look, king, it is not right for you to promote the worship of two gods in Israel. It is a wrong thing to do. The king is infuriated. What does he do? He kills Zechariah. He kills Zechariah, the son of the priest who saved him from his grandmother. Kills him. And the story does not end there. Because of the terrible thing he has done, he in turn, what happens, is attacked by the army of the neighboring nation. They attack, they lose the battle against the neighboring nation, and the king is taken hostage, and the king eventually falls sick. And then the king, this is really terrible now, the king is eventually killed by some of his own aides because of what he had done by killing the son of the man who had rescued him. And the story continues in that terrible way. Why this terrible story mixed up? Because Israel forgot the warning they were given. When you enter the promised land, be careful about worshipping foreign gods. Remain and cling unto the God of Israel. That was forgotten. What was introduced in Israel? Idolatry, the worship of idols. That means the worship of competing gods, other gods who are masquerading themselves and trying to compete to take the place of the one true God who had liberated them. This story of the first reading is important to help us to understand what the gospel is saying today. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot be a citizen of two countries and completely say your loyalty is equal to both countries. It is impossible. It is impossible. You must be a citizen of only one nation for us to ascertain your true loyalty. Yes, we know that there are some people who belong only to one nation but still become traitors. But it is more difficult when you belong to two sides to be completely loyal in equal measure to both sides. Only the gospel is saying the stakes are a bit higher when it comes to God. You can't serve God with full loyalty and again serve wealth with full loyalty, because there is a very basic principle. The principle is this: you sacrifice for what you love. You sacrifice for your God, and you are willing to do anything. You can do anything to make sure you please what you like. Human beings are ready in life to do anything to protect and to defend what they like. If you're a Christian, it means you are going to do everything in your power to protect and to defend everything that is taught by your faith, especially when it relates to love of God and worship of God, and what is taught about the consequences of loving God, the consequences of being a Christian. What I do in everyday life bears testimony to that. But if there is something that according to me is higher than God, then I am willing to set aside my belief in God to do that thing. In that sense, that thing, that other thing that I'm willing to put aside my God to do it, to sacrifice for it, that becomes my God. That becomes my God. And that is what the gospel is warning us today. He said, please beware. There are competing gods in the world, especially in our world today. We in Kenya, we have inherited an economic system generally that is capitalistic. Generally in Kenya, that is the system of life, economic life we have inherited, capitalism. And capitalism, people can go for the neck of each other in a capitalistic state because they want to accumulate for themselves. It's all about me and myself. I want this, I want this, I want that. That is the system we have inherited. It's a historical reality. We may not be responsible for how it began, but we live in that reality today. The warning here is very appropriate for us because systems also perpetuate certain ways of life, and individuals living in those systems may not even be aware that by their actions they are perpetuating wrong things in society that injure and harm other people. Why? Because we begin to lean too much to the preservation of what we believe in and what we like. We forget even our belief in God and our faith in God. And so, wealth and the things of the world and money become a real competitor of God. Why? Because all our energy is focused on that. We can kill because of money. We can, in where I come from, my village is just a few kilometers from here. Where I come from, brother and brother can kill each other because of land. It's a very serious thing. Land can make a brother kill a brother. In this sense, if a man is willing to sacrifice so much to protect land, it means land has become a god. So land becomes an idol competing against God, because God, the promoter of the goodness of humanity, cannot allow me to kill my brother because of land. So if I can raise my hand against my brother because of land, as it happens in my village, not every day, but many times it happens, and elsewhere, it means land has become my God. That is just one example. How many of us are willing to do terrible things because of what we like, irrespective of our faith? It means we have created for ourselves an idol. Why? Because you cannot serve two masters. You can't be a citizen of two nations with equal loyalty. You'll be more loyal to one than to another one. And as you have said about dual citizenship, if you become a dual citizen, there are certain offices you cannot aspire for because they don't admit of divided loyalty. They want absolute loyalty of the person holding that office. Something similar is being asked of us here, especially those of us who are believers. We belong to the citizenship of God. That citizenship does not admit of divided loyalty. We must be completely committed to loving God, to serving God, and the consequences of that decision, loving our brothers and our sisters. Incidentally, yourselves, the various services, you are involved in making sure society remains without divided loyalty. In a certain sense, by virtue of your profession, by virtue of your service, you are involved in shielding society from having divided loyalty. I'll give obvious examples. You want to rid society of thieves. Thieves are your enemies. You want to rid society of crooks. You want to rid society of enemies of society. That is at the very center and core of your responsibility and your service and duty. So, in a certain sense, actually, your own profession is in itself consistent with what the gospel is saying, removing divided loyalty from among people, because it's divided loyalty that brings crime. A man who truly loves Kenya cannot do things against Kenya. And you are involved in making sure these people don't thrive in our society. They'll cause more trouble. Because at a certain level, deep inside themselves, if they are single-minded in love of country, love of nation, they would not do those things. You want to limit the number of these people in society for society to move on. Where you began your marching today in Kondele is a very historic part of our city of Kisumu. Kondele is very historic, very nice place. I pass there every day when I'm coming to the office. But lately, Kondele is very calm, very quiet. We only hear about maandamano. It's not nowadays. There's no maandamano in Kondele. Kondele is very quiet. Very calm, no problems. Actually, one of my people was telling me the other day, we don't want to go andamana because we have suffered a lot for people. We want people now to suffer for us as we watch. No more andamana. But even in that, That peace that is being experienced in Kondele today is what we want to spread across the whole country. That everybody lives in peace. Maandamano is good, but maandamano, when it destroys us, is not good. Yes, the Constitution allows it, but the Constitution does not allow us to promote maandamano and kill our brothers and sisters. It doesn't say maandamano and we loot property. It says maandamano, we destroy property. Now you realize why you are at the center of making sure society does not have divided loyalty. Because divided loyalty brings about a lot of harm in society. Your vocation, your profession is godly in nature. And please, may God protect you to continue with that special responsibility you have in society. Because it's when people are single-minded, when people are loving, when people are loyal to one ideal, when people have their priorities right in a country, that the whole society enjoys peace and progress. You cannot underestimate the role society has placed on you in fulfilling this mandate for a nation. Think of a country or a nation or a society without law enforcers. I cannot think of any today. To think of a society without law enforcers is to think of a society that is chaotic. But to bring order is what is godly. To bring order is what's expected of our achievement, the achievement of our goals as human beings. So as we pray for you and we pray for your families, we understand the huge responsibility placed on your shoulders, not just by our country, by God. By God. When you serve your country with commitment and dedication, you are serving God, because you are removing from society, reducing in society elements that will stop human progress, individuals and groups of individuals from reaching their goal, achieving their goal. And our goal is one day all of us to be citizens of the city of God without divided loyalty, because we cannot serve two masters. You will have one and hate another one. You are in a very special way involved in maintaining that single-mindedness, that loyalty